Good afternoon. This is Michael Garcia, the chair of the Hispanic Vote. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month. We are interviewing elected officials and community leaders, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing former Judge Julio Gonzalez, who currently works at BSO. He's one of these Hispanic community leaders that's been here for some time, that has helped the Hispanic community grow, and has been a mentor to me and one of the leaders here in the community. So I want to thank Judge Gonzalez here.
Thank you.
You know, and we're highlighting our Hispanic people because obviously if we don't do it, no one else is going to do it. We got to highlight our important community leaders here in the county. But before we get into all of that, we want to get a little bit of background of the judge. So please tell us where you're from. I know where you're from.
You know where I'm from.
I know where you're from, so tell the people.
Well, I mean, thank you so very much for having me, Michael. As you know, I am a New Yorker by upraising, but I was born in the Dominican Republic, and I came here when
Dominicano!
But I was raised, I got here when I was about 3 months old in my mother's arms. I
Okay.
remember my mother telling me that once she got off the plane, how cold it was in March. Because it wasn't that cold back in the Dominican. She reminds me of that, but I was raised in Manhattan. I was educated in the Bronx.
Uptown?
Up
Washington Heights.
Inwood.
So today I interviewed Commissioner Castillo, and he grew up in Washington Heights as well.
Yes.
But he's Cuban, but he, you know.
Yes, no, but at the time, Washington Heights, Inwood was a melting pot of a lot of the most recent immigrants to come to New York City, and it was a really up and coming spot.
Yeah.
And
now it's it's really expensive up there too.
Very expensive.
Tu sabes, you know.
I do not ever foresee myself ever going back to that. It's a little bit out of the price range.
So you grew up in New York.
Yeah.
Dominican parents. How long have you been down here in South Florida?
It'll be 20 years, in fact, at the end of this month. It'll be 20 years at the end of this month. And in fact, 21 years, 21 years I've been down here.
So you're a prosecutor in Brooklyn?
Yes, well, right out of law school, I went to Syracuse Law. And in 1995, in that fall, I was in the entering class of the Brooklyn District Attorney's incoming class of 1995. I did my commitment for about 3.5 years there. Then I spent about close to a year in the legal aid division of the Manhattan Criminal Division in Manhattan, there up in Supreme Court, where it's the equivalent of the public defender's office here. Then I transferred down here, took the bar, passed, and I was offered a job as a lateral with the Miami State Attorney's Office.
And then you were a judge?
Well, then up in 2006, I had the good fortune of having Governor Jeb Bush appoint me as the first Dominican-born judge appointed to a state court in March of 2006.
And unfortunately, the reason why we exist is because back then, 12 years ago, 3 Hispanic judges were challenged just because of their surname, for no other reason, because they had a last name that was Hispanic. And out of that, we are here now because back then Hispanics were not involved in local politics. And when I say local politics, the municipal races, judges, county commissioners, and those races, which are always held in August. So that's why we exist, because of what happened to Judge Gonzalez and Judge Avalos and Judge DeJoles. But the county's a little bit different now, and we're going to continue to do that to make sure that doesn't happen to Hispanic judges or Hispanic elected officials. You currently work now for?
I work for the Broward Sheriff's Office. I'm the Director of Professional Standards. It is a position that oversees any concluded internal affairs cases, and then among the many things of doing so, one of the major factors is making a recommendation to the sheriff of any legal or disciplinary actions that ought to be taken.
So you're basically reviewing offers of conduct, whether it's good or bad, you're reviewing and then giving recommendations.
Well, not just officers, we also have the general employees, we also have the Department of Detention.
Okay.
What-
The fire department, is the fire
The
department?
fire department is part of it, but not part of the committee that I chair. But
Okay.
notwithstanding, obviously, that's a big deal. It's nearly 6,000 employees in the Broward Sheriff's Office. So
Okay.
what we do is, in terms of the committees that I chair, they are just looking to determine that either the sheriff's policy has not been violated, or state law hasn't been violated, or the federal law hasn't been violated. I also chair the use of force board, the shooting review board, the pursuit review board, and I'm now on the social justice task force for the sheriff.
So tell us a little bit about that last task force that you just mentioned, because
Yeah.
this was just announced last week, right, or something like that?
Couple of weeks ago,
A couple
yeah.
of weeks ago?
Yeah.
So tell the people a little bit
Well,
about that.
it is a collaboration between members of the community and the sheriff's office in terms of the people that's brought on to this committee are activists. They're stakeholders in the community, and they're the ones that are going to really help us understand what's going on in their community so that we can foster a dialogue with the communities, as well as them understanding a little bit more about the work that BSO does.
Okay.
Because I think once you have that kind of facilitating type of conversation, people now are in a better position to assess when things go wrong, if they should have gone wrong, and what can we do to better it.
It's just an advisory committee, is that?
Yeah, it's to the sheriff.
Okay,
Correct.
it's just an advisory to the sheriff, no really teeth in it?
No, it's not meant to be adversarial.
Okay.
It's absolutely meant for the voices of people from the community to be
heard.
heard,
Okay.
and to also have a way of having transparency, so that the people of Broward County really know what's going on at the sheriff's office.
Before you were at the sheriff's office, you did represent the PBA, right?
I was the general counsel for the Police Benevolent Association for 6.5 years, representing law enforcement officers throughout the county of Broward County.
So the real reason I got you here is because we want to talk about Hispanics
Yeah.
in the county, elected officials, and the lack of diversity regarding Hispanic and elected officials in local elections and also in the judiciary, which the numbers have increased a little bit from the time you were there.
Sure.
So. Much so, but we still are kind of behind. So I wanted to get your take on what Hispanics need to do, where you see issues, what can we do to better those numbers?
Well, I think with just having this conversation that you and I are having, and of course having the broad support that Hispanic vote has actually garnered, and well deserved, because I gotta tell you, it has really started a dialogue as to why and how Hispanic candidates are going out there and running for elected offices. I think that the important part is that we continue to encourage and educate those who want to serve in public service. Oftentimes, it's just a lack of information. And I think that one of the things that we're really on the cusp of doing because of social media, I think now the information and the education gets to a broader band, and it gets to other people that would normally not be within the circle of education. When more Latinos and more Hispanics see other Hispanics running, whether it be for municipal races or for the judiciary, they themselves start to see themselves encouraged to do so, and maybe encourage others who have great skills and talents to do something that we really think that the Hispanic community is ready to do.
So I want you to address running for Hispanics, and specifically in the realm of judges, because you have that background. Can you give some pointers or some suggestions to young Hispanic attorneys that potentially are considering running in the future for a judge? Because running for a judge and running for a regular local race are two different things, two different animals.
Yeah.
Please.
It's really just encouraging them to really first get involved, right? So if you first get involved, whether it be in a local race or a county race, so that they themselves see what it takes to actually conduct the race, right? So what I would encourage the young lawyers is to get involved, now. Because Broward County is so big. Most people don't know, for instance, when it's a judicial race, that it's a county-wide race and that anyone can vote, which is one of the misunderstandings.
Misnomers.
That's right. And then a lot of things is that you have to understand that Broward County is bigger than Vermont and Rhode Island. And so the idea of trying to comprehend, you have to take this bit by bit and talk to people who have already run and make connections with people that can help you in each and every city. These cities are really, really overlapping one another. And at this point, anyone who decides to run, the advice that I would say is get involved, get educated, right? And don't be afraid, because at this point, we're seeing more and more Hispanics going out there and putting their names on the ballot and raising their hands and saying, I want to serve.
So for the people that are thinking to run as a judge, your suggestion is maybe get involved in some local races just to see how the campaign works,
Just to see how the campaign works.
get their feet wet,
Yes.
understand the process, because at the end of the day, the judge has to run a race just like
All the time.
any other politician.
That's
And obviously, the judges have more stringent rules, but at the end of the day, you still have to raise money.
Yes, well,
You have to ask for votes.
it's a nonpartisan approach for the judiciary. But yes, there are more stringent rules that apply to a judicial candidate. But by understanding, notwithstanding those rules, by understanding what can and cannot happen, really will educate and benefit anybody who has hopes of ever becoming a judge.
Any tips as to things that they can do to prepare their resume to become a judge, so people will vote for them? Things that they can do.
Well, I think that it's important that they have a well-balanced resume, because wherever you are in terms of a judge, you may be put either in a civil division or in a criminal division if it was a misdemeanor or a county spot. But if you're in a circuit, you're also looking at not just circuit, civil, family, dependency, criminal, and probate. So the more of a variety type of resume you have, the more experiences you have, the better you are to really demonstrate that your skills and your experience will really benefit the judiciary. And I think that is a winning formula for people.
Also, talk about what young attorneys really need to focus on regarding reputation when they want to seek, when they want to go seek to become a judge, because that's really important.
I think it's important because let me tell you why. I mean, I have run and I have been appointed, so I have been on both sides. It is infinitely important that our young lawyers understand that their reputations are exceedingly important, more than just what we would expect. Because when you are saying that I want to be a judge, your ethics and your reputation should be above reproach, because that's what we expect from our judiciary, right? We expect judges to be not just abiding citizens they expect more from us because of the important position that you hold. So what I would talk to a young lawyer is make sure that you have a sterling reputation for honesty, for hard work, for fairness, and for having that type of reputation within the legal community that says, I would want to see this person as a judge if they ever chose to do that.
So to the young attorneys, what he's basically saying is, when you deal with other attorneys, your reputation needs to precede itself.
Yeah.
Your credentials, dealing with people, your reputation, because that is what normally hurts a lot of attorneys, because you've had a bad experience, or an attorney or two doesn't believe you're trustworthy or honest, and that kind of spreads like wildfire. So that's really important for the young attorneys to understand, because some people think that it's win at all costs, and that's a problem.
Absolutely.
That you may win a battle, but you lost the war because you did something that was sort of underhanded, and now this is gonna,
it should go without saying, right? But at the end of the day, your reputation is what matters more than any case. Yeah. And that's how I would put it.
For the young attorneys seeking to get appointed, give them a little bit.
It's the same. I would say the exact same thing, but I would also then encourage them to start understanding the process. Seek out people like me who have gone through that process, so that we can then mentor them through the process to get them ready in a perspective where if they get an interview from the judicial nominating commissions, that they're prepared, that they are aware of the factors that judicial nominating committees look for. Because in that perspective, it is a political appointment, and it is a matter where people have to understand what is being sought for.
So what young attorneys need to understand in this process is the appointment process. Obviously, there's a really tedious application and vetting process.
Yes.
Do you think young attorneys should not submit the application until they're completely ready to be appointed? Because if you make a bad presentation, that kind of sticks with you for the rest of that. Anytime you're now gonna try to seek an appointment, it kind of tarnishes your reputation.
I think they have to be careful in not overstepping and making assumptions that really aren't there. I think the first thing I would do is reach out to someone who's gone through the process before submitting their application. Having somebody review their application, someone who can absolutely guide them through the minefield of absolutely putting up an application that can be without reproach. It's oftentimes the mistakes of what I call the newcomers, that they just put in their application without having anybody else review it before, and not just anybody, but someone who's gone through the process. Because you need to have somebody who can say to you, that will work, that will not, or you need to answer this better because this is pretty vague. And remember, the Judicial Nominating Committee wants to get the best qualified candidates to the governor, and we want to make sure that we're putting out the best candidates on behalf of the Hispanic community.
Okay. Now, as a whole, what do you think us Hispanics can do better here in the county?
No, I think that what we're doing is just continuing this entire effort, right? What we're doing now is not to stop, is to continue going forward and to really getting out to the perspective, understanding that the Hispanic community is only growing, right? And understanding that with that growth also requires people in the community and stakeholders to really voice out the need to get out the votes when elections come, not just in November, as we know.
Yes.
Many of the more consequential elections happen in August, and that's where we need to really advise and educate our Hispanic community to remind them big elections happen in August, not just in November. And if organizations like this really go out to help Hispanics become educated and help them see how they can vote on those crucial dates, I think we will be taking a great leap forward.
Judge, I want to thank you for your opportunity to talk to us.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Well, you know what? Before I forget, because I wanted to jump into these important topics, but what's your favorite Dominican dish?
I will never say anything, never say my favorite dish, because my mother would be watching this.
Okay,
anything.
But
We can't have a plate without plátanos on it.
Okay,
Sure.
I get it, but that's it. I'm trying to get, because obviously Hispanics, we all speak the same language, but we all have a little bit different.
Yeah.
Like Dominicans, merengue is
We love merengue, we love bachata, we love salsa. We love salsa too.
Yeah, but merengue and bachata is...
That's what we like.
That's what you like. So, plátanos, but come on, give us one dish. I'm not saying this is...
Listen, I think there isn't one Dominican dish that I don't love, whether it's mofongo, whether it's sancocho, whether it's salchichon, mangú. It doesn't matter. All of it is good.
So
everything is delicious.
Here's a question that I have for you, because I have this ongoing disagreement with a young Dominican lady. I'm not gonna name her right now. Mofongo, is it Puerto Rican or Dominican?
Well, if you're gonna ask a Dominican if it's Dominican, it's Dominican.
Where was it created?
If you're gonna ask a Dominican, I'm gonna tell you it's Dominican.
Well, we have this dispute, and it's funny because she used to work with me, Lynette. And we're arguing, and she's like, no. And then we go to Google.
So we're gonna believe everything that's on the website. Okay.
She's like, and then, so we had a third
party. Don't tell me it's Wikipedia.
So we had, she's Dominican, I'm Puerto Rican, so we're going back and forth. And then we have a Colombian girl there. So we say, okay, and she's like, she said, this is Puerto Rican.
Is that what it said?
Yeah, that's right. And she was like,
Listen, we obviously have our own preferences as to how we make it, but I think that regardless of whether you're eating mofongo made by a Puerto Rican chef or a Dominican chef, I think it's delicious.
What I was trying to take credit is for creating.
Oh, you want to take credit?
Yeah.
I just want to eat it.
Yeah.
I just want to eat it.
Brothers, sisters, are you the only child? Brother?
No, I actually am not. I am the oldest of 5.
Okay.
Actually, 5. There's 4 brothers and 1 sister.
So the other brothers were born here?
They were all 4 were all born in
So
you're
a true Dominican.
I was born in the Dominican. But I tell people this all the time. Listen, I was born in the Dominican. I am extraordinarily, you know me, very, very proud of my Dominican heritage. But I am a New Yorker through and through, because once you've been in New York, you can't get that thing out of that person.
We're
all New Yorkers.
You know, it's just, but you can tell your brothers, yo soy dominicano. Judge, I want to thank you. I wanted to get that in there because I think part of highlighting Hispanics is also talking a little bit about the culture.
Yeah, sure.
You know, because we're all Hispanics, but there's a little bit.
But we're all brothers.
We're all brothers and
sisters,
but
and that's where we're gonna be.
Yeah, we all have little variances here, but
isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing.
You know, before you, I've interviewed two Cubans already, white. I'm black, but we're all same. We all have the same.
We are like the United Nations. We are like the United Nations from all walks of life, and that's the beauty. That's the beauty of the Hispanic culture.
Yeah, we have that common thread.
Absolutely.
You know, I want to thank you for your service to the county, your service for the betterment of us Hispanics, because if it's not for people like you and some of the other elected officials that are a little bit older, it wouldn't make what I'm doing or made it easier for me to accomplish the things that I'm doing, because there's always people ahead of you, right? The trailblazers that make it a little bit easier for us. So I personally want to thank you, especially in the legal field, because it makes my job easier, because I'm not now the first, right? I'm not the first Hispanic. So it makes it easier for the people that follow us. So I want to thank you really a lot for what you've done for us and for the county and for Hispanics as
I want to thank you for all the work you've been doing here in the Hispanic vote, and for all of the persons that have always been so kind to me. And listen, I could have never have done any of the things that I've accomplished without many people coming behind me and helping me and giving me a helping hand. And I will continue to do my whatever I can to help and continue doing this kind of conversation.
Thank you, brother.
All the time, brother. Anytime.
Thank you.